समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
One thing you've got to give to Donald Trump, he knows how to troll a friend. He can troll Canada, he can troll Europe, he can troll UK, he can troll Japan, South Korea. These are all his friends. In fact, Australia. In fact, all of these are his treaty-bound, treaty allies, treaty-bound friends. He trolls all of them. India is now only his latest favorite. He seems to believe that he's done with all of the rest. He's got the deals that he wanted. He's now focusing on India. With India, he has a large trade deficit of about $40 billion and also a large trade. He keeps on saying we hardly do any business with India. The business with India is $130 billion of merchandise. Besides, of course, services, etc. So with India, it's getting closer to 200 billion. And the last joint statement between Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, was that they will take this to $500 billion by 2030. So this is not a nothing trading relationship. He wants his deal. More than wanting his deal, he wants credit. He wants a thank you note from India saying, you played a role in bringing about peace. He needs that very badly. While India has continued not just to deny that, but to also basically call him out as some kind of a liar again and again by saying that between the Pahalgam massacre and June 17, there was no conversation between him and the Prime Minister in Parliament. He is getting even. He's getting even. He's irritated. He's impatient. He's getting even. And the reason I say that he's mastered the art of trolling his friends is what he's just done with Pakistan by way of finding something that nobody has done so far, which is oil in Pakistan. And that too massive stores, reserves of oil in Pakistan. Now that is something that's been a Pakistani fantasy since 1950. In 1915, in one village of deep Punjab, some little oil was found. And since then, there's been a belief that in those arid areas, there's oil in many other desert areas, particularly in the Middle East. It must be found in dry and barren areas, particularly some mountain areas of Pakistan as well. That fantasy, however, has remained what it is, a fantasy so far. So I will give you a listing. It is not a definitive listing. It's an indicative listing of the various points of time when Pakistanis have announced without any evidence whatsoever, that some of the largest oil and gas reserves in the world have been found either on the Pakistani land or offshore from Pakistan in Pakistan's territorial waters. They haven't even said exclusive economic zone. They've said territorial waters, which is just 12 nautical miles from your coast. It isn't that much. Very few countries would have found large stores of oil that close to their coastline, because if it was there, they would have found it much earlier because technologies have been getting better. However, what has Donald Trump done? Perfectly timed with his 25% tariff on India and really rude words about India. India is doing this, India is doing that, despite being a friend. It's importing from Russia. Russia is doing terrible things in Ukraine and killing people. That didn't bother him until now, but now he's made that an issue. While he imposed higher penalties on India, he said something about Pakistan. He said, and I'm quoting an excerpt of the tweet, but you can see the full tweet on your screens. And he says, and we've just concluded a deal with the country of Pakistan, and the United States will work together on developing their massive oil reserves. We are in the process of choosing the oil company that will lead the partnership, and who knows, maybe they'll be selling India oil someday. That is a straightforward act of trolling India because he really wants India's attention. He does want to close that deal with India. However, he wants to go to his maximalist position. He's just using the method that decide that thinks it's much stronger in a negotiation uses. And he knows that nothing will irritate India more than an American-Pakistani partnership and some kind of a promise or hope of a massive oil find in Pakistan. Pakistanis obviously were over the top in their reaction, in their celebration. The Shehbaz Sharif, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, who nobody speaks to, but he speaks through tweets. He responded and he gave his profound thanks to Donald Trump. And he said, this is a landmark deal. You will see the whole tweet on your screens. He said that with this, we'll expand the frontiers of our enduring partnership in days to come. Pakistan's finance minister, Mohammad Aurangzeb, was a technocrat. He is in the US meanwhile, so speaking at Atlantic Council, which seems to be the favorite destination of visiting Pakistani leaders. He was speaking there and he said that US-Pakistani trade deal will be done in days, not weeks. For now, Trump has imposed a 19% tariff on Pakistan, which is less than the 25% tariff on India. So to that extent, this gives Pakistan an advantage, although there are not many areas in which India and Pakistan compete in their trade in the US. After all, Pakistan's total exports to the US, merchandise exports, are just about $5 billion. That's much less than 1/10 of what India exports to America. Scales don't matter, the message matters. Once again in Pakistan, there is a celebration that while tariffs have been imposed on them, lesser tariffs have been imposed on them than on India. The important thing is that countries like, say, Vietnam have even less. So they are the ones who will be Pakistan's competitors or rivals in this case, but it doesn't matter. In Pakistan, everything is determined in terms of comparison with India. And Trump knows that in India, nothing will cause more alarm or irritation than his seeming to do a favor with Pakistan or his seeming to put Pakistan at the same level as India. That's called hyphenation in India's dictionary. That's precisely what he's doing to trigger us Indians. Now, what is Pakistan's oil situation right now? First of all, Pakistan, like India, imports more than 80% of its oil needs. Pakistan has a big gas field, the Sui gas field, that was discovered in 1952. But since then, it has remained a gas field. It's been developed. In fact, in Pakistan, for the longest time, people had piped gas in their homes. And when I first traveled to Pakistan, I was surprised that in people's homes, heating during the winter was done through gas-fired heaters in their homes. Much before gas pipelines came into our homes in India, that too in the big cities. Pakistanis had them for a very long time. In fact, in Pakistan, if you ask somebody, what do you use for cooking? What do you use for heating? They'll tell you Sui gas. So there was just as we used to say Vanaspati ghee was dalda, in Pakistan gas was Sui gas. It was the solitary plant. In fact, during the 71 war, this plant was bombed by Indian Air Force quite devastatingly, and I think it took the company a couple of years recovering from the damage caused in that bombing. Besides that big storehouse of gas, which still produces quite a bit of gas, although Pakistan's gas production right now is much less than a tenth of what India produces. India produces onshore gas and also offshore gas. Offshore gas, Krishna Godavari Basin, we know about. Both Reliance and ONGC produce gas from there, plus gas comes out from many other oil fields in India as well, including in Assam. So India still produces more than 10, maybe 15 times as much gas as does Pakistan. So not that much comes out of Pakistan. So just like India, more than 80% of Pakistan's energy needs are also imported. However, there's always been the belief that there is oil and gas lying under Pakistan's soil or in Pakistan's territorial waters or exclusive economic zone. Somebody just has to come and find it. Meanwhile, I'll give you data of what Pakistan is importing right now. They are importing anything between 2 to 3 lakh barrels a day. In comparison, India imported in April this year, because for India, much more accurate data is available to the last month. In April this year, India's oil imports peaked at 5.3 million barrels per day. So, ek taraf it's about 2.5 to 3. Ek taraf it's about 5.3 million barrels a day. Now, that's also because India has these humongous refineries which can import slightly cheaper, not much cheaper, slightly cheaper Russian crude, convert it into petroleum products and export it. And you know what? Most of this export is being done to countries which impose sanctions on Russia. So European countries are actually beneficiaries of the products, petroleum products out of Indian refineries, particularly the Reliance refinery and Nayara, which is actually part Russian owned, Rosneft owned. That economics keep on running. So India is a much larger consumer, way larger than the differential in the size of the two economies. India is a much larger consumer of energy because India's income levels are higher, India's refining capacity, refining quality, and also the downstream refining ability is much greater. So there is no comparison. The key question is how much oil reserves, either proven or expected or estimated, lie under Pakistan soil. I will give you India just by way of comparison. I would also say that the data you see in India might be more reliable because India is also hugely underexplored, but Pakistan is even more underexplored. At the same time, the fantasy making in Indian politics has not been that much. People might say, all right, now we are saying that we might have found several Guyana-sized oil fields in Andaman Sea. There are some indications, some work has been done, but everybody even tells you, even the minister tells you, these are early days. It's only when you start digging that you can say things more conclusively. I can tell you, if Pakistan had found what India has found in Andaman Sea, they would have by now announced that they found the biggest oil and gas reserves in the entire world. So right now, the estimated reserves, including what's been explored at least at a preliminary level, India onshore and offshore would be about 4.9 billion barrels of oil, of which about 61.3% is onshore and 38.7% is offshore, both on the western side and the eastern side. Those are the estimates for India. For Pakistan, the estimates right now is just about 0.2 billion barrels. So 0.2 billion barrels versus 4.9 billion barrels. However, Pakistan's hope and Pakistan's promise from their own government has been much greater because they believe for a very long time that there is oil under their land. Behind some of that, there might be some geological reasoning. I'm sure there is some place because this has gone on since 1950. But there is also a little bit of the faith speaking there. And that faith is something that Asim Munir spoke about the other day. And he's been talking about this amongst his inner circle, and that comes out all the time. And that is something that Imran Khan said in March 2019, that Asia's largest oil and gas reserves had been found in Pakistan. Because Imran Khan might have been sent to jail by Asim Munir, but both of them believe that Pakistan is the new state of Medina. So just as the Holy Prophet had set up the original state of Medina, since Pakistan has been founded in the name of Islam, as Asim Munir said, only two states in the world have been based on the Kalma. One is the original Medina or the Saudi Arabia, and second, Pakistan. So just as that Medina, Saudi Arabia, has oil underneath it, God Almighty must have blessed the second Riyasat-e-Medina also with oil and minerals underneath its soil. So this comes from faith as well. Imran Khan had made the same statement and claim in 2019. Funnily, shortly afterward, this was denied by his own petroleum ministry, which not only said that this wasn't true, there was no evidence yet of any major oil reserves either onshore or offshore in Pakistan. And also the ministry then said that most foreign companies which had come to invest in Pakistan to explore for oil have either left or are in the process of moving out. Now, for Pakistan, if I start going into what's their estimated oil availability now, or oil or their confirmed oil reserves now, it's very dodgy. It's very dodgy because they keep it as some kind of a strategic secret. So different sources give different kinds of figures. Some companies, however, particularly OGDC, Oil and Gas Development Corporation, which is the Pakistani equivalent of ONGC on our side, they've been saying that in some of their fields, there's been an increase in estimates, but in many others, there's been substantial decline as well. Overall, they say that in 2024, there was about 23% increase in their estimation of oil available in Pakistan, or explorable oil or exploitable oil available in Pakistan. This is still in the ballpark of 238 million barrels. I told you, in the case of India, and we think we are really an oil-starved country, and we do sometimes feel a little victimized by nature, that despite having such a diverse geography, such a large country, such a big coastline, island properties, and humongous exclusive economic zones, we don't have more oil. That estimate also is 4.9 billion barrels. In case of Pakistan, so far it's only 238 million barrels. July 7, 2024, at a meeting at the Prime Minister's house, a bunch of companies, mostly Pakistani companies, some foreign companies also, they said that over the next 3 years, they will invest $5 billion in oil exploration in Pakistan, oil and gas exploration. Whenever I say oil, it means oil and gas, hydrocarbons. And this will be done by digging 240 sites. However, that did not happen. A committee was set up under Ishaq Dar, who's now the foreign minister and deputy prime minister, Sambandhi of Nawaz Sharif. A committee was set up. However, it did not go much further. In fact, on July 19, 2024, in the same cabinet, Oil Minister Musaddiq told a parliamentary committee that no foreign company was interested in exploring for oil and gas in Pakistan. Existing ones also were in an exit mode. And he said one of the problems for all these companies is also security. They are spending far too much in protecting their employees and assets. That is the reason, he said, now Pakistan had given up on these companies and negotiations had started with 2 Chinese companies to carry out these explorations. Then comes a little bit of a headline-making story. September 2024, a story came out that petroleum and natural gas had been found in territorial waters of Pakistan. This was a story in Dawn, and this quoted anonymous sources, but this said a highly ranked security source, national security source, so has to be the army, a highly ranked national security source that has access to this information, said that after 3 years of exploration with an allied power, with an allied country, now evidence had been found that the 4th largest oil and gas reserves in the world existed in Pakistan's territorial waters. Now, I might go so far as to say this was maybe a little bit of a journalistic liberty, may not be territorial waters, maybe exclusive economic zone. Nevertheless, those are the waters in the neighborhood of which large offshore reserves have been found. In UAE, in Saudi Arabia, Iran and Qatar have those humongous oil fields also there. So it's one thing to be optimistic, it's quite another to fantasize, because this story came out, but after that not much has happened. I will take you backwards from it. This is September 2024 and I will come back to this story, but March 21, the Italian company ENI, I don't know how to pronounce it, ENI maybe, or ENI, they exited Pakistan. Similarly, Shell sold 77% equity in a joint venture that they had in Pakistan. They sold it to Saudi Aramco. That is why this presumption is being made that this exploration of Karachi and Balochistan coast has also been carried out. The allied country, Saudi Arabia, probably. In 2023, Pakistan also announced the auction of 18 oil and gas blocks, just as we keep announcing them. The response was muted. For 15 of the 18, there was no international bid at all. Then August 24, Total, the French company, which is in partnership with Adani in India in non-conventional energy, Total exited and sold their shareholding to another global company called Gunvor. Before that, going back, large scale and long lasting exploration with in a site called Kekra 1. Kekra 1 is off Karachi. That was stopped. This had been much celebrated as going to be a humongous find, one of those Pakistani stories, Pakistan and oil stories. After 17 digging attempts, in Kekra 1, in fact, the digging reached 5,500 meters, that deep. And yet, they did not find anything. It was given up. This is where Exxon, American company, Exxon spent more than $100 billion, but found nothing. Hit nothing there. If you go right back, there's a New York Times report of 1960, of which I will share a link with you, that mentions that between 1950 and 60, 136 wells were drilled for natural gas in Pakistan because the expectation was that there will be a lot of gas found, but gas was found in only one. I told you about Sui gas. October 59, three American companies, Hunt International, Tidewater Oil Company, and Sun Oil Company, plus two British companies, they spent 5 years drilling in Pakistan but found nothing. I told you I'll bring you back to this Dawn story, which actually lit this fire, and maybe that is what the Pakistanis have sold Donald Trump as well. So based on the Dawn story that first gave you the quote-unquote scoop, an analysis was published in Dawn on September 30, the same month, 2024, by Syed Rashid Hussain. And the story's headline, Striking Oil, a Crude Endeavor. It says Pakistan's been promised by a source that fourth largest oil and gas reserves in the world have been found here. At the same time, what United States Energy Information Administration, USEIA, talks about is untapped shale and gas in Baluchistan. Now, shale has its own challenges, which are technical as well as economic. So this may be a long shot. Syed Rashid Hussain goes on to say that nobody is rushing over to Pakistan to invest. He also quotes an article by Alex Kirmani in a specialized oil and energy journal. We'll share a link with you. Then he also reminds us that Total, Shell and ENI or NI have already exited. And then watch this tweet from Yusuf Nazar, who's a former top executive and analyst at Citigroup. And he says, look, since 1915, when some oil was found in a village called Khor in Punjab, there's been this expectation that a lot will be found, but still nothing particular has been found, and still the 1952 Sui gas fields find remains the most important source of oil and gas in Pakistan. And he reminds us that according to USEIA, only 0.2 billion barrels of oil exists in Pakistan, or estimated in Pakistan, 18.7 trillion cubic feet of gas, which even if it all becomes available, will only fulfill a fraction of Pakistan's only needs. And he says a lot of what's going on is about political estimates and politicization. And any estimations are based on surface level data. There's been no evidence from drilling, and really nothing has been done by way of seriously exploring the shale possibilities, because shale is very expensive and technologically very complicated. To understand this $0.2 billion estimate, see what Venezuela, with the largest reserves in the world, has. Venezuela has 303 billion barrels of oil reserve. That's the estimate. The US itself is 44.4, and US also has the 8th largest reserves at 44.4. India has about 5 billion. Pakistan at this point has 0.2 billion. However, there's nothing wrong with being optimistic, but when optimism goes into the realm of fantasy, then you have to raise a question. What is it that Pakistanis have found? And what is it that the Pakistanis are selling? Is it oil, crude oil and natural gas? Or is it snake oil and maybe gas of some other kind? And finally, before I let you go, let me introduce you to two wonderful volumes. This is From Isolation to Integration, Navigating the Geopolitics of India's Northeast from 1990 to 2023. As you can see, these are two big tomes. These are written and compiled by Patricia Mukim, who is among the most respected journalists and most respected voices from Northeast India, a wonderful woman. We also have a friendship that goes back more than 40 years. These will be released in Delhi in a short while, in just a few weeks. And I also have the honor of being asked by Patricia Mukhin to be present at the release.